If you've ever fallen asleep with your whoopee, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Like, comment with whatever you'd like, and we'll kind of go from there. It really helps me out, guys, so thanks for the likes and comments. Lots of questions regarding hydration, tactical hydration, all that type of stuff. So I thought we'd go ahead and take a moment to talk about it. Now, I know Marines have a lot of questions because they're like, hey, I drink the blood of my enemies, so do I really need to hydrate? The answer to that is yes, because blood doesn't have the appropriate amount of hydration for you, so you're not going to be able to wash down all those grands, so make sure you stay tuned. There are a whole lot of different ways to carry hydration in a so-called tactical environment, or however you'd like to put it, or whatever you do. Kind of the three main methods I like to think of are pack carried, plate carrier mounted, or under the plate carrier. So I think under the plate carrier is one of the most innovative that has come out. Now there are some drawbacks to each of these methods, and there's pros to each of them. So there's not going to be a best method. It's simply going to be dependent on your mission set, how often you're going to get water refilled, filtration issues, that type of stuff. So there's a lot of things that come into play when it comes to water, because you don't look cool if you're dead, and dehydration leads to death. So hydration is cool, no matter how goofy you look. So I'm going to start off, and we're going to talk about one of the more interesting products. Now, full disclosure, all these products are given to me. I've used them for a long time, so I have no bias towards any of them. So first product we want to talk about, which is really cool in my opinion, is the Qore IcePlate. So a lot of confusion around this product about what it is, what it does, and kind of the whole point with it. So first off, mine's been spray painted camouflage, and I also realize that these models, they scratch pretty easily, so that camo paint's going to come off. But at the same time, Qore now has coyote tanned plates out there, and even still, the spray paint does last pretty good. My particular model came with these little blue kind of bite valves, but you can easily replace these with source hydration tubes or whatever you'd like. So that's really not so much an issue for me. So how these work is they don't replace the plate. So a lot of people think that you put these in place of your trauma plate, and they're like, why would I do that? And yeah, you wouldn't. That doesn't make any sense. What these do is they go behind your armor, and they sit under it against your skin, and then you put your plate carrier on over it, and then you have hydration right up against your body. So what's good about that? Well, just like the name implies, if you fill these about 3/4 of the way, they have a little fill line there, and then you freeze these overnight. They do fit in a freezer. They're sized perfectly for that. Then when you wear this on a really hot day, it's going to melt throughout about 3 or 4 hours approximately. It's going to keep you super cool. And again, being cool matters. Okay, anyhow, point being is it's going to keep you nice and cool on a really hot day. How big of a deal is that? Maybe not. Where I've been, where I've done some stuff, yeah, definitely is going to matter, having keeping yourself nice and cool. So it's just kind of an added nicety to have. So another cool thing about it is that it's slightly angled down. That way you get all that water coming down into that drinking tube. You don't have any water stagnated in there. It opens from the top. You can fill it from the top. As you can see, the opening is a little small. Typically I don't remove these. I just have these on my plate carrier, and then I have my buddy kind of fill them. So you got to really trust your buddy. Otherwise, he's going to get water on you. It's going to turn into a wet t-shirt fight. And I know the Navy's all about that, but depending on what you do, it might not be your thing that you want to happen. But nonetheless, the Qore IcePlate is kind of cool for that reason. Another thing is that it works in the opposite environment. So when I was close to the North Pole not too long ago, I took these and I filled them with really warm water. And so I put those on my innermost layers, and so it was nice and warm against my body. And that way I had warm water that I could drink. What I did with the hydration tube is I kept that tucked into my clothing. That way the water in there didn't freeze and I couldn't get water. And it worked pretty good, because it is a constant struggle to keep that water from freezing in those Arctic temperatures. So IcePlate worked really well there. Now how these work is you can either take some zip ties, put them up against your shoulder straps in your plate carrier, or you can use these supplied Velcro ties and attach it in whichever way you see most fit. And there's a ton of different ways, and I've experimented with a ton of different ways, and they all work. So Qore IcePlate, probably one of the cooler ones out there. Now realize each of these is going to carry approximately 1.5 liters. So when I carry 2 of these, you get 3 liters of water. That's usually enough to last me maybe 3/4 of the day, almost the entire day, depending on how hot it is and how much activity I'm doing. So big fan of these right here, and it's going to work. Now, concern for a lot of people is it's going to put your plate carrier slightly more off your body. So that is definitely going to be an issue. And again, you need to look at what you do and see if that's something that you're willing to accept as far as risk and that type of thing. Well, not specifically risk, just you're gonna have to practice with it to make sure that it works for you. One of the cool things about the IcePlate is that when it's full of water, it seems to show that in conjunction with a trauma plate that it seems to add a little bit of ballistic stopping power to your body. So your body, it seems to help absorb impacts from rounds a little bit better. Now, of course, if all that water is drunk, not so much, but kind of a little cool little note there. So Qore's been doing a lot of research on that. I know the owner, great guy, big supporter of military law enforcement, and these are used throughout in far-flung places and by some guys way more cool than me. Anyhow, Qore IcePlate, big fan of it. So that's it right there. Now, why did I take so much time to talk about that? It's not because I was paid or anything like that, but rather because it's kind of a newer product and kind of a more interesting design. A lot of people aren't familiar with it. So I wanted to kind of get you guys up to speed on it. So Qore IcePlates, great product. Moving from plate carrier, under the plate carrier mounted, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about pack mounted for a second. So why would you want to mount something on a pack versus directly on your plate carrier? Well, it depends on the length of your mission. For example, if you're hiking the mountains of Afghanistan and you're going to need a whole lot of water, and it's likely that you're going to have a whole lot of things in your pack. And the small packs that fit on plate carriers are probably not going to hold all that equipment that you need, so you're probably going to have it inside your pack already. And if you have a small pack holding your hydration on your plate carrier, then sometimes it doesn't fit as well with that pack. It can make things kind of slightly more uncomfortable. So in many cases, a lot of guys opt to run their hydration directly in their packs and route it through the chest strap. Sorry, the shoulder strap. That way they can drink off of it. So one of my go-to for hydration in a pack is the MSR Dromedary bag. So what is cool about the MSR Dromedary bag? Well, a whole lot of things. Kind of the best thing about it is the material. It's kind of this heavy fabric. On the inside is treated with an antimicrobial lining. Seems to keep things from growing in there. Nonetheless, I do rinse mine out with bleach fairly often, as I do use this thing a whole lot. Now, these can be fitted with a whole lot of different accessories out there, so I'm not going to get too much into it because a lot of people seem to focus on bite valves and those types of things on a lot of these hydration packs, but in reality, all that stuff can be swapped out to your liking. But that being said, what came with the MSR works pretty well, except for the fact that the bite valve doesn't have a cap on that, and that applies to the Qore and the Camelbaks as well. So make sure you get some type of bite valve that allows you to put a cap on there, because otherwise you're going to get this thing dragging through the mud, getting dust on it, or God knows what, and then that's going to be a problem. So we should get some type of cap for that. Anyhow, MSR Dromedary bag, I've used this thing for about close to 3.5 years now. Great. I've never had this thing puncture. It's extremely resistant to all types of forces. I've definitely fallen on this thing a whole lot of times, or dropped my pack in such a way as to put a lot of force on this, and I've never had it rupture or anything like that, and the cap's always held steady. So there's something to be said about that. So an extremely durable bag would definitely be the MSR, and I couldn't recommend it enough if you're looking for a pack mounted or a pack carried hydration bag. So MSR, near and dear to my heart. We've been a lot of places together. All right, another pack mounted or pack carried hydration bag is going to be the Camelbak. So Camelbak, kind of the OG here coming in. They've been in the industry for a long time. The problem I have with Camelbaks is that, I mean, I know there have been updates, but a lot of times these caps have a lot of problems. It is very wide, it's easy to fill and that type of thing, but the cap always ends up being a problem, and I've had these bags rupture on me quite a bit. They just don't seem to be quite as strong as a lot of the other bags out there. Now, that being said, they do serve, they will serve you quite well for a long period of time, but I think that there are better bags out there that are slightly stronger than the Camelbaks. But that being said, if you're issued these, I wouldn't fret. They do work quite well. And if you're to purchase one of these, they still work well. I just think that there are better ones out here. But Camelbak, good stuff, nonetheless, despite my reservations. So, last and certainly not least is probably one of the best bags out there currently, which are the Source bags. So, Source just has some really tough bags. Not as tough as the Dromedary, but the Dromedary is heavy. And the Source bags are very light. So they're still made of that kind of a synthetic plastic type material, but they're incredibly strong. What I most like about them is I love the tubes that already come with them, so I don't have to buy new tubes. I know that's not so much an issue, but kind of for simplicity's sake, just makes things a little bit easier logistically, my side. So these have a nice little cap that goes over them, and in that way you can keep the bite valve covered. That way you're not getting a bunch of crap in there and then getting yourself sick from God knows what. So good thing there. A lot of people get a little messed up with these valves right here, so you pull them out and then you can drink from them instead of biting on them. I still call it a bite valve. It's a bad terminology on my part, but nonetheless, some people don't like that so much, but I don't think it's so much an issue. And to have that cap and stuff, I really think it's worth it. So source bags are awesome. When it comes to things I'm carrying in my pack, I typically like to go for about a 3 to 5 liter. So this is the 3 liter source bag, and the Dromedary is a 5 liter, and then the Camelbak was like a 1.5, so that wasn't a great example. But you couldn't go wrong with the source of the Dromedary. I would definitely recommend the Sorso. Great little tube. If you notice too, it has a little cover on the tube itself. So what's the purpose? Well, camouflage, if it's a camouflage type tube, or also to keep the water in that tube from heating up under direct sun. So you imagine just walking around and having that tube exposed, and that sun's just beating down on it. It's going to heat up that water. And that first little drink is going to be nasty plastic water, and nobody likes nasty plastic water unless you're a psychopath. So kind of a nice thing about it. So source hydration bags, great and good to go. Finally, we've talked about under the plate carrier mounted. We've talked about packs, having your hydration bag in your pack. And then finally, we're going to talk about plate carrier mounted hydration bags. So why would you go for a plate carrier mounted bag? Whole lot of different reasons. Maybe you're a super fast, high speed dude and your mission's going to last you a couple hours, or maybe you're a cop and this is just a rig you're going to throw on for an active shooter event, or a civilian, or who the hell knows what. The point is that the amount of water that you're going to carry up on a plate carrier is usually going to be a little bit less than what you're going to carry on a bag. So because of that, you're usually a little bit more limited. You're going to be needing to get to resupply, be able to fill it up a little bit more often, that type of thing. So take all those things into consideration. Nonetheless, it is a good option depending on what you do. So right here on my Qore JPC, I have a Source 2 liter. I'm a big fan of the Source. So these like I've talked about before, these Source hydration bags are great. This one has a nice coyote tan camouflage cover that works very well, keeps it insulated from the sun, helps reflect some of that sunlight off. Yeah, big fan of it. I use a 2 liter on this particular bag, and I have it mounted inside a Qore general purpose pouch. So right here. So there are a whole lot of pouches that you can get attached to the back of your plate carrier. The modular salt packs, the mini maps, Qore one, you can get the SKD pigs, a whole lot of ones I'm sure I haven't mentioned. Find one that's going to fit to your plate carrier. That way you don't have a whole lot of overhang, anything like that. So if you notice on mine, it doesn't come to the bottom of my plate carrier, which was kind of a pain finding one that fit on the Qore JPC, because the Qore JPC is a very small plate carrier. So find something that works for you. You're probably not going to be carrying a whole lot in this pack. This has enough room for about my hydration, plus maybe a light jacket, maybe some ammo, maybe a grenade or two, but it's not the best setup for kind of a sustained firefighter or sustained operations and that type of thing. But again, all this stuff is situationally dependent. So find what's going to work for you. But in the case of this pack, because I do have it mounted to the plate carrier, it can be a pain if I put a pack on or anything over that. It does compress down pretty well, but it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. And yeah, can I deal with it and get used to it? Sure, but there are better options out there. Now, one final note to make about hydration is that when it comes to your plate carrier mounted bags, it's going to be a little more difficult to fill those up, because you're not going to be able to just take off your plate. Well, you shouldn't take off your plate carrier because that's your protection, and assuming you're wearing it, you're probably somewhere that requires you to wear it. So how do we fill these up? Well, there's a really cool adapter from Source that allows you to put on a adapter that allows you to fill off water bottles. So you just hold the bottle higher than your pack and it will eventually fill it up. Now, one thing to note about that is if your little hydration bag is inside your pack and it's being compressed by a bunch of things, that water's not going to really get in there that well, and you're not going to be able to fill it up as well. I found that those systems work quite well when it's mounted on your plate carrier or something like that, because there's no pressure really on the bag. But just be aware of the limitations of that system. So I hope this was somewhat helpful to you guys. I know there's a whole lot of options out there, but like anything else, guys, what matters is staying cool. So make sure you look cool and you don't die of dehydration. And we'll definitely catch you later. We got a bunch of great stuff from Gh3 and a couple other great companies. So lots more to come. So we'll catch you soon.